I think democracy should work through consensus, but I do not agree with the first part of your comments that
you're being modest.
Because there were other persons like Sanjeev Reddy
certainly.
and others, Shankar Dayal Sharma and others. Thank you.
Certainly. Mr. Mukherjee, let's go back into what has made you what you are today. I'll pick up some experiences, I'll throw some questions.
So I would just like to have one more question which you raised, that is about the civil society. This is, to my mind, role of civil society in our political system ought to be addressed, and we recognize that. Therefore, when the movement led by Sri Anna Hazare about the enactment of Lokpal bill, immediately we started interacting with them. You know the whole history. Last year series of meeting took place and we discussed with them.
You solved it in 4 days.
And about 7-8 meetings. The short point which I am going to say, that we cannot brush aside this important segment of the society in our democratic framework. How their views can get reflected will have to be, of course, it will be reflected by the representatives of the people.
For those people who say that you are not elected and hence you cannot have a point of view, you would not agree with
No, because they have a view, but it must be reflected through the elected representatives. That's why where the differences are now coming, they say that you accept this legislation. We are saying legislation is the job of the legislator. Let the legislator examine it. Let the legislature, and that process of dialogue should continue. That is my viewpoint. That is my.
I'll take 5 or 6 examples or instances of your political career. When did you first become a MP? In the late 60s, Mr. Mukherjee?
I became MP in 1969, July 1969.
Is it true that you made from the backbenches of the Rajya Sabha a speech which greatly impressed Indira Gandhi? What was that speech about? Do you remember your first speech in Parliament? The first time you spoke in Parliament. Tell me about it.
No, my maiden speech was on the abolition of the Legislative Council. It was a bill.
Right. You
know, in Bengal there was second United Front government. They demanded that a Legislative Council of Bengal should be abolished.
Yes.
So it was that bill was brought, and along with certain other states. That was my first maiden speech. But I made one major speech on bank nationalization. It was at the fag end of the debate. And bank
why the fag end? Because you were the youngest member?
I think at that time I think I was the youngest member, and I represented a regional party, and I was the single member of my party.
The Bangla Congress.
Bangla Congress. So when I was speaking, naturally it was at the end of the, because she had decided that next day Prime Minister as Finance Minister will reply to the debate. So debate is to be concluded, and Violet Alva was in the chair.
Yeah.
So she gave me the time at the last. I was speaking there. But what happened I do not know. But Prime Minister came to the houses, and when the Prime Minister came to the houses, naturally number of members came.
Yeah.
So I spoke, instead of going into the details, I just spoke on concept of right, because lot of argument was built on that banks to have banks, own banks, is a proprietary right.
Right.
And it is a fundamental right. Therefore, it should not be dismissed by Nationalization Act. It is a right to property is a fundamental right.
Right.
I tried to develop that no right is fundamental. Every right is related to the particular socio-economic conditions prevailing at that point of time. So I gave a couple of examples. One example was that when Sir Robert Peel was Prime Minister of England, sometimes in the 19th century, maybe around 1830, 1832, then he had a friend, Wilberforce. He was a private member of House of Commons. Through him, he got a bill introduced in the House of Commons for the abolition of slavery. Now, a very cross section of British public opinion, including the political scientists and eminent personalities, they said, no, no, this bill cannot be introduced, this bill should not be passed, because three rights are inalienable. One is right to life, one is right to property, and one is right to liberty.
Yeah.
And to maintain slave is a right to proprietary right. It cannot be abolished.
But it went against the right to liberty.
So when I said that none of us who are talking of that fundamental rights should not be disturbed or violated, we shall have to keep in mind none of us sitting here will agree that to maintain slavery is a right which should be supported. Therefore, concept changes. She then asked, I think, Ometa, who was the chief whip of that house, that who is this man? He is a newcomer. Then he said that he has come from Bengal, Ajay Babu's party. Then while we were coming out, Mr. Bhupesh Gupta, of great CPI leader, he introduced me to her in the lobby. And then she said, congratulations, it was a good speech and you have given a good new angle.
Fantastic.
And next day she mentioned it.
She mentioned your speech.
She mentioned that a new young member.
Were you always very plucky, very confident as a young member of parliament? Because you must have been, in 1969, you must have been what, 34 years old?
34, 35.
Were you a confident and plucky
no,
young man?
No,
because you see, you were representing a regional party.
No, that's true.
You were a lone member. Your roster number was 213, you were the last speaker.
No, that's true, but at the same time I find that that is perhaps inbuilt. As a village boy, I built up this confidence in me that many of the things we have to achieve, I am to do it. Nobody is going to help me. That is, and perhaps as a village boy, I built up. I can give you one instance, that my school was about 5 kilometers away from my home. There was no road. We had to commute through the paddy fields. And there were two small streams. They were quite innocent during the entire period except the rainy season. And the rainy season, they became very virulent and there were very strong currents. We had to negotiate it. So more than often it happened that we used to get the support of the elders while crossing that stream. But sometimes it happened that nobody was available. Then we had to take the risk. I had to take the risk and I had to cross it. So that injected confidence in me that sometimes certain work ought to be done by me. So from the very beginning, that type of confidence.
So what you're saying is that your background gave you a natural risk-taking ability.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
Because we had to do it, as I was telling you, that every day to commute 5 plus 5, 10 kilometers, not on a proper road through the paddy field. That's why in one of my interview or interaction in some chamber of commerce and two other things, I said that even the concept of development changes.
So because your risk-taking ability has reflected itself in your politics as well. I find this very interesting. Because 2 years later, you not only impressed Indira Gandhi, but I think after the 71 war, let's go to 71, because you were 34, so you would have been, as a 36-year-old, you were part of a delegation that was going all over Europe, from the United Kingdom to Germany, to win support for India, and you actually moved a resolution in 1971, if I am not mistaken, recognizing the Mujibur Rahman government.
Yeah, you are correct.
Am I right with that?
You are absolutely
Because I am very worried sometimes about quoting dates in front of you.
No.
Because of your...
you did not be worried at all. You are perfectly quoting the years and dates. In fact, 1970, I was made a delegation of Inter-Parliamentary Union, IPU. That year, the session of IPU took place in France, Paris. As I was single member of a regional party, normal course I could not get the seat in the delegation. But Indira ji ensured that I get a seat in the delegation. Perhaps she dropped some Congress members or so. And then before, she briefed some of us, not some, all of us, yeah, very brief briefing, and she told me that you will have to speak to the members of the parliament in Bangladesh. Then Bangladesh was not issue, on the development of East Pakistan. At that time it was East Pakistan. So there in Paris we did, large number of countries, MPs, delegations came. Thereafter it was organized that myself and couple of other members went to England, spoke to the members of the House of Commons and others. We went to Germany and we talked to the member of the Bundestag. Then we went to Austria and talked to the members of the Austrian Parliament, and we are also assisted by, I remember I was there, I think Unni Krishnan was there.
Who was the foreign minister then?
And foreign minister at that time was perhaps Sardar Soranshi. Sardar Soranshi.
Yeah.
Then in one of such interaction, Dilip Padgaonkar, who was representative of Times of India at Paris at that time, he also helped us to have some interactions with some of the people. Anyway, this is one aspect. Second aspect is, in 1971 budget session, I moved a private member's resolution, a short duration discussion under 176. So where I demanded that there should be, I think it was a resolution, not short duration discussion. Perhaps I got a chance of moving a resolution. A resolution that then the government of Bangladesh in Mujibnagar has been established. It was not recognized.
It was in exile.
It was exile. Government in exile. Government in exile.
Yes.
Then I demanded that it should be given recognition without any delay. Otherwise, the people of Bangladesh cannot fight strongly